Alright, the assumption is made at this point that you know how to get things set based on the DOT requirements. You know how to map your K drive at home on any network you're at and what that is doing in terms of setting up a path down to a place called Standards AutoCAD and some other places as well. That said, you have to know how to manage files. The assumption is made that you can go to a seed file out at the DOT or here on campus by going to Civil 3D Development, not to the local fix, which you remember was a way to fix the AutoCAD install done here on campus, but instead going down to the DOT file structure, which you're going to right click and copy and take down to the place in your H drive, again file management, that you know where you're storing your projects. Civil 3D projects, you see I've got one there. If I do right click now, paste, yes to all, it's going to replace right on top of that. If I go inside that DOT file structure immediately, I want to rename it with the file structure that begins with your numbers and has some other identifying date we'll talk about, or number, or etc. And then down underneath that, in the design, in the surfaces, you want that right clicking over here, renaming, you would like that to be the same base file. Now some of you are going to want to divide files out into different drawings. That is acceptable eventually once you get your design done at a preliminary basis, to divide files out so you can outsource to other people. But for now you would like to keep that kind of that process. I'll turn that to October 22nd. This kind of process of keeping things without spaces that should carry around to other places as well. You'd like to keep all of your data in the same general area within your project. You have base data, you have perhaps imagery data you could get. There is mapping data you could get in terms of raster or other. Survey data in that file here is where you would keep your original data that you might have, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 files. And so again, you could go out to the right place and pull it into where you want it. You've got a lot of data out on the K drive provided by Greg over time. Out here in the transfer drive we have a couple of Excel files which I'll show in a second. We're going to copy that and put it in the correct place, in, remember, the same place you just were, October 22nd, down in the base data, down in the survey. And realistically, you probably would like to rename that as well. I'm going to take this and go 4606 under October 22nd underscore Bessett Data DOT. At that point, you're ready to start, but let's investigate what is particular about the survey data that will make the DOT standards work. I'm going to do that by trying to go through the front door with some of this stuff. So I'm opening Excel right now. I'm going to File, Open. I'm going to go to the right spot, which of course is on the H drive, AAA Fall 2010 for me. There's a ways to map this so you don't have to go through this process, going all the way down to base data, down to survey, down to original, and looking for all Excel files. It's interesting that it does not see it. Perhaps I didn't place it in the right spot. So I'm going to look again. I'm going to pause here. This has happened in the past in terms of all files, all Excel files. You want to know where your data is and where you're getting it. I thought I stuck it in the right place. Remember, base data, survey data. I see nothing there in original. I do not see any data, so I'm going to pause here for a second. I'm showing on the screen now that actually is there, and so front door or side door, sometimes you've got to double check where things are. The reason why it didn't open is in fact because of the fact that it is a CSV file, and so you need to hit all files. So I'm going to now do it again. File, Open, Original. Instead of looking at Excel files, you want to go All Files. you look at that, it will actually go through, and I'll show you exactly what the file format has been converted to from what you shot. It is still PNEZD, Northing Easting. Remember that the easting has a false easting of 2 million and the northing of around, in this case, 200,000. But that's not the case with these numbers as they are. It must be a different coordinate, northing and easting here. I'm sorry, that's the northing is 200,000. The easting is 2 million, I believe, on your false northings. It is shot in a coordinate system. However, I want to point out that the descriptions are as required by the DOT again, as I close this out, as is shown at the DOT website. Going out to where we have that information in my computer, out on the K drive, all from the DOT essentially, in Civil 3D Development, Support and Research. In that file here, I'm double clicking that, and you can see it shows essentially the description key info that you worked on last year. Except this is the description key info, which tells you what layer things go on and what symbols they're set and what parameters are there. This is set for the DOT, and the one change that we are making is that we are going to bring this all to 2D and not 3D. I would suggest at some point doing a project in your capstone or whatever where you're actually working with 3D data, perhaps after the beginning of next semester, so you begin to understand the differences of manipulating it. That, in fact, is why you have learned some things like shift right-click, point filters, and the like. So that is your set to go at this point in time. And you begin through the front door, which is in fact is the DOT link right here, unless of course it is not working on your computer, and then you go through the standard front door. Okay, that was pause, so we're going to start again. Remember, we start on that link, double click. If your K drive is mapped, something will seem odd. You're going to open it. This goes out to the DOT, and very odd, so I don't know when you're running from home how it will work if you're not connected to the internet. You can still generally proceed in most of your design. I'm going to bring AutoCAD over here at this point. It's running on the other screen. And let you know that the general process through here, you should at this point go through it once or twice and start to make your own notes from screenshots or timing on videos. The process of if you start with the right points and the right basically file structure and the right file with the right layers, etc., the right settings, the process going straight through to some sort of design should be in the order of 15 minutes to a half an hour. Tops. Now, what will make it a little bit different is when you've got to put in a lot of break lines, and so I'm going to be skipping that here, though I will be doing one or two, just so we go through the whole process. I have got it up on the other screen. I'm now going to pull it over, cart it over, which it lets me do, I think. Carting over, AutoCAD. I'm going to try to stick it within. This is Civil 3D. Again, you get 15 minutes of fame and any YouTube upload, and so I'm going to kind of go through here. The mistake I made in class right away is you have to go and begin File, Open, just like File, New, but in this case you've kind of done the sense of, I want to go to the right project, October 22nd. You want to go down to Design Data. You want to go down to Surfaces and open up your file there. At this point, I would suggest going in and putting in a box of the section lines. I would suggest doing a couple of other things here. I'm starting right away, I'm turning on this here, the prospector, and hit a cancel here. I'm going to turn on the prospector in a second. You want to go to here, go to your settings if you can right away and say, yes, I am going to be proactive about thinking about a projection, Wisconsin, and we're starting even to know what your projection coding are. It will save you some time. Was it like 83 CF? So state plane, central, US foot, 83-CF. I hit apply. Changing the scale here right away is a good idea to start. You'll see that later on when you put your profiles in. That will, changing the scale will move them around a little bit, and we wanted them to be at station elevation times 10. Hit OK here. You'll see later on there's a couple of other settings that we'll try to change, and one will be the surface style in terms of minimum triangle. That might become an issue. So you are set to go here. You go to, now you check that you've got the right drawing or template. You go in here and you go to Insert, Points from File. You double check PNEZD. Later on it will be many other formats for importing points in other parts of this program. You go out to the right place. If you remember, it's remembering from the last time, so you want to go actually to the file you are working on, going to Base Data, you are going to Survey Data, to Original. You're looking at that here, you're clicking. It's a comma delimited file, not a space delimited. And hit OK. You've got a couple of duplicates in here. You're okay with this data, otherwise you would chase those down. I'm going Zoom Extents. I now have a bunch of data there. I now have my points. The point for this, in fact, comparison to what you've done in the past, is that there are no there's no point group set up, basically. Everything is done by layer. You might, at this point, go through and remember that right-click in any AutoCAD toolbar. You want the layers and layers 2. Right-click in any AutoCAD toolbar. Gets you that ability to isolate layers. Somehow your toolbars sometimes get moved around, so you can kind of move them around and double-check where the layers 2 toolbar is, and I'm not seeing it. I'm going to check again. It means it's off on another screen. When you're working on two screens, things do jump around. What's great about this is that you can layer isolate, click on one or two layers, and now that is your current layer. Right? And you want to learn to unisolate. You want to learn to use Layer Manager. You see some are already there. You want to do minus view a fair bit, minus V for view. Right, or minus V for view, W for window, overall, underscore plan. Eventually you would like to have boxes for everything, but you just give it a corner here so you can jump around. That said, I will pick up the next one with getting a surface, getting alignments, and then pushing out, getting alignments, getting a profile, surface profile, a proposed profile, a assembly or two, including the null assembly, making a region, and then also making a corridor and also breaking that into regions. We'll pick it up there, start to finish, final time.